The lights in the studio dimmed dramatically, casting elongated shadows over the sleek, glass panels of the iconic ITV set. The audience murmured with anticipation. This was a special edition of The Chase, the quiz show that had become a Sunday evening ritual for millions. Outside, in living rooms across the country, families settled on sofas, mugs of tea in hand, ready to watch the familiar spectacle. Contestants racing against time, facing the fearsome chaser, the tension palpable as the clock ticked down. But this evening, things would take an unexpected turn. As the opening theme blared and the camera swooped across the contestants' nervous smiles, viewers at home leaned in, only to recoil within moments. "What's going on?" one Twitter user typed, bewilderment dripping from every letter. Another posted, "I don't understand this. Who are these people? Why is the music different?" The stream of comments escalated as the show unfolded, or more accurately, as it didn't unfold in the way anyone had expected. Inside the studio, host Bradley Walsh clutched his cue cards with a polite smile, though a subtle furrow of concern crossed his brow. This wasn't the standard format. The opening round had begun, but something was off. Instead of the usual crisp, lightning-fast questions and the iconic taunt of the chaser, the contestants were presented with riddles that seemed pulled from a dream. If a clock strikes 13, how many minutes remain until the rooster crows? One contestant read aloud, blinking in confusion. A pause. Then another question. When the moon walks backward across the sky, which number tells the truth? The chaser, ordinarily a calm, intimidating presence, seemed equally flustered. Mark, the veteran of the studio, stared blankly at the screen in front of him. He muttered, "Is this improv?" Viewer social media feeds exploded. The usual hashtags, #TheChase, #ITV, #Bradley Walsh, were now accompanied by questions, panicked emoji, and the occasional philosophical musing. One fan wrote, "I just wanted my Sunday night trivia fix, and instead I got a surreal existential crisis?" The producers, watching monitors in the control room, scrambled. This was supposed to be a special immersive episode designed to captivate audiences with a twist. A week ago, the creative team had brainstormed, "Let's turn the quiz show into an interactive puzzle experience, blur reality, and challenge the audience." What they hadn't anticipated was that the challenge might be too challenging. Meanwhile, the contestants were trying to make sense of it, too. Denise, a school teacher from Newcastle, raised her hand. "Excuse me, Bradley? I think I need instructions," she said, eyes wide. "Do we answer these questions with numbers? Letters? Emotions?" Bradley chuckled nervously, glancing toward the production team. Let's just, go with your gut," he suggested, his usual charm strained. The camera cut to viewers at home, and for many, the gut reaction was simple. Switch off. Ratings plummeted within the first 10 minutes. Channels that normally could rely on loyal audiences saw a migration of viewers to cooking shows, documentaries, and even static broadcasts of sheep grazing on farmland. Comments on streaming platforms were merciless. One frustrated viewer typed, "I've seen episodes of The Chase in my sleep. This is not an episode of The Chase." Yet, there was a subset of audience members who refused to look away. For them, the confusion was electric. Every cryptic question felt like a secret puzzle begging to be solved. Social media groups quickly formed. The Chase, Decipher the Decoy, they called it. Screenshots of bizarre queries and cryptic chaser expressions were shared, analyzed, and debated with the intensity of a detective series. Back in the studio, the tension was thick. Contestants were sweating, Mark was muttering numbers under his breath, and Bradley's smile was now a mask of survival. The producers, sensing disaster, decided to intervene with subtle cues. Flashing lights, subtle hints whispered through earpieces, and even a few pre-recorded questions. But the audience's bewilderment had already reached critical mass. "What's going on?" became more than a tweet. It became a cultural rallying cry. Memes proliferated. Bradley's frozen smile, Denise's furrowed brow, and Mark's existential terror were overlaid with captions like, "When you open the chase and the universe asks questions instead of the chaser." And yet, in the chaos, there were moments of unintentional brilliance. A contestant, after staring at a particularly nonsensical query, decided to answer it with pure improvisation. "The rooster crows in hexadecimal," he declared, prompting laughter from some audience members who appreciated the absurdity. Bradley Walsh, seizing the moment, played along. "Ah, yes, of course. Who knew we'd need coding skills on the chase?" This brief spark of humor became the highlight of the episode. Clips circulated online, attracting viewers who hadn't watched the live show, curious about the madness. Overnight, the chase, the confounding edition, achieved cult status, not for its quizzes but for the sheer unpredictability of what unfolded. By the end of the episode, a strange sense of camaraderie had formed among the surviving viewers. Those who hadn't switched off shared a communal experience, the bewilderment, the absurdity, the tiny triumphs of making sense, or at least pretending to make sense of chaos. Critics called it a modern allegory for navigating life's inexplicable challenges and the television equivalent of a dream you wake up from unsure if it actually happened. Bradley Walsh, meanwhile, faced mixed reviews. Some praised his professionalism, noting how he managed to maintain composure amid absurdity. Others joked that his poker face deserved its own spin-off. Producers vowed to rethink future experiments. In interviews afterward, one admitted, "We may have underestimated the audience's need for structure, but at the same time, it was thrilling to see people engage in a completely new way. We just maybe need a slightly gentler approach next time." Despite, or perhaps because of the initial backlash, the chase found itself in an unusual position. Viewers who had initially switched off were now tuning in to watch reruns of the chaos. Clips were dissected for hidden patterns. Online forums speculated whether some of the questions had secret answers or if the chasers' confused mutterings were an unintentional code. The unintended interactive puzzle episode had become a cultural touchstone, a moment where mainstream television dared to experiment, stumbled spectacularly, and yet somehow captivated. And so the evening that began with bafflement and mass channel switching ended with laughter, debate, and a bizarre sense of achievement. In a world of predictable game shows, the chase had briefly turned into a reminder that even the most familiar routines could be upended, leaving audiences questioning not just the game, but everything around them. And in the end, whether viewers turned off their screens or stayed glued in fascination, one thing was clear. The show had done something remarkable. It made people feel, think, and tweet in equal measure. It proved that even in chaos, entertainment could thrive, if only for those willing to embrace the absurdity. And somewhere in a quiet studio corridor, Bradley Walsh sighed, shook his head, and muttered to himself, "Well, that escalated quickly." This story is around 1,200 words, combines humor, tension, and narrative flair, and keeps the focus on the ITV headline while turning it into a creative story. If you want, I can also create a punchy version designed for social media virality, full of humor, memes, and dramatic reader hooks that would make it shareable online. Do you want me to do that next?